pharmacies are limiting sales of children's medicine as demand has soared with respiratory illnesses spreading across the country and, of course, right here in Southern California as well.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing issue. It seems to be getting worse. Let's go to Mario live in Hollywood this morning where you did find some empty shelves when you went inside. Good morning.
Yeah, and it comes as we're seeing one of the worst flu seasons in recent history, and something as simple as children's ibuprofen can be really hard to find right now. This was actually one of the last on the shelves here at this CVS off Cahuenga Boulevard in Hollywood, and the company announcing a 2-product limit for children's pain medications online and in stores, noting they're not experiencing a widespread shortage, but some stores have an extremely low supply. And take a look. This is what we saw here at this pharmacy. About half of the products were not available. CVS citing increased demand for children's cold and flu products, medications like ibuprofen and children's NyQuil, saying the limits were placed to ensure access for all customers. Walgreens also limiting online purchases to 6 over-the-counter fever reducers per transaction, but no in-store purchase limit for Walgreens. Now, the moves by CVS and Walgreens happening during a brutal respiratory virus season that continues to put a strain on pediatric hospitals across the country. We've been talking about that. The Consumer Healthcare Product Association says sales of pediatric pain relievers are up dramatically, 65% from this time last year. Meanwhile, health officials are urging parents not to give their children adult medications and reminding them that generic versions work just as well. Experts say this shortage could last into early next year. Back out here live, while the shelves may not be completely empty, it could be hard to find exactly what you're looking for. Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll show you some more of the medications, children's meds that were hard to find, nearly sold out here at this location. Reporting live in Hollywood, we'll send it back to you.
Well, viral infections are overwhelming some local pediatric hospitals, and now we're seeing a widespread medicine shortage as COVID, flu, and RSV cases surge across the Southland. 2 major pharmacies just announced limits on what you can buy. CBS 2's Tina Patel, she's live in Burbank with what parents need to know. Tina.
Well, Chris, there is not much on the shelves of this particular CVS, and we checked online. There's shortages there as well. Retailers are hoping that putting limits on what people can buy will help ensure there's enough medicine to go around. Marguerite Livers is happy to see her son Laszlo playing again because he's been sick most of the month.
It's a back-to-back, like one virus after another after another.
A lot of kids have been getting sick recently, and that's why it's getting harder and harder to find over-the-counter medicine to treat cold and flu symptoms. Livers says she had to go to 3 different places.
You're on your own. You have to call each of the pharmacies yourself, and it's really hard when either you're sick or your kid's sick or both.
Pharmaceutical companies admit they weren't prepared for an early flu season to hit at the same time that COVID and RSV were spreading. They are now trying to increase production to keep up with the demand. But in the meantime, 2 major retailers are limiting purchases. A Walgreens spokesperson tells us, in an effort to help support availability and avoid excess purchases, we put into effect an online-only purchase limit of 6 over-the-counter pediatric fever reducers. CVS is going even further, only allowing shoppers to buy 2 infant or children's pain relievers. We reached out to some local doctors who tell us limits make sense since medicine has an expiration date. They advise parents to look for generic versions if brand name products are not available. As for Livers, she's just hoping her family can stay healthy the rest of this cold and flu season.
We're back to masking, not because so much of COVID, but just because of every other virus.
And since we don't know how long this medicine shortage will last, doctors do advise doing what you can to avoid getting sick in the first place. So wearing a mask in crowded places, washing your hands, and then also getting a flu or booster shot if you can. Chris?
Yeah, some great reminders, Tina. Thank you so much. Okay,
I have a 10-year-old boy, 8-year-old boy, and a 5-year-old girl.
And you usually keep Tylenol, children's Tylenol in the house?
Yes, always. And I haven't been able to find one at CVS or Walgreens.
This Howard County father of 3 is unfortunately not alone. He cannot find a store with children's Tylenol or Motrin or a generic equivalent in stock.
Luckily, I was able to grab some at Costco last week, but I can't seem to find it there now.
We couldn't find any anywhere either, and we stopped at a series of large retail pharmacies across the metro area. Could not locate one bottle of liquid pain reliever or fever reducer in stock. Here's what we did find: empty shelves, out of stock signs, and an apology. We also found a few ibuprofen chewables at one store, Grape, and a single box of acetaminophen suppositories at another.
We've been down this road before. We had a formula shortage. We've had testing shortages. We've had all kinds of shortages. And now it looks like we're in an over-the-counter medication shortage.
We also found parents wondering what to do. So we asked Dr. Monique Swallow-Burke.
It is definitely the tripledemic, right? So flu, COVID, and RSV.
Howard County pediatrician is also the president of the Maryland chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics.
So numbers of all those cases had been rising over the last few months. And so that's a lot of sick kids. I think that what happened was the demand was much higher than expected for these over-the-counter medications, and the companies just weren't ready for that.
According to the Consumer Healthcare Products Association, this is not a supply chain issue. This is not a widespread shortage. However, they say supplies are being replenished as quickly as possible, and in the meantime acknowledges that some large retail pharmacies, some national chains, have decided to put a limit on the number of bottles people can purchase at one time. In Columbia tonight, I'm Kate Amara, WBAL TV 11 News.
This morning, growing concern in the cold and flu aisle. Pharmacy shelves often stripped bare of the medications that sick kids need the most. As respiratory illnesses in children keep spiking, sales of children's pain and fever medications have more than doubled from last year. To make sure more people have access, CVS is now restricting purchases of children's pain relief products to just 2 at a time, both online and in person. Walgreens imposing a purchase limit of 6 for pediatric fever meds, blaming increased demand and supplier challenges. The limit only applies to online purchases, not in store. While the FDA tells us it's not seeing widespread shortages of these products, Johnson & Johnson, the maker of children's Tylenol and Motrin, says it's working to maximize production capacity. But some in Congress say more needs to be done. With 2 sick kids at home, Mom Natalie LeClaire says she's had to pay her pharmacist extra to compound a special dose of children's ibuprofen.
The bottle cost $30, which was a lot of money compared to how much a bottle is usually, which is around $13. So I did that in the interim, but it's not a sustainable thing for us.
Doctors say if your kid's usual cold and flu meds are sold out, consider buying generic store brands. They're just as effective. You may be able to give older children adult versions of certain medications, but definitely check with your pharmacist first. And if your child has a fever, medication may only be necessary if they're experiencing pain or discomfort. Otherwise, use home remedies like cold drinks, popsicles, and a cool towel to the forehead. They can all help bring the temperature down.
I tell parents, don't freak out about the actual fever. If the kid's doing well, there's no reason to give them medication.
The exception to that is babies under 2 months old. Experts say if they have a fever, take them to a doctor immediately. And as for the dwindling supply of cold and flu meds, the FDA says it is working with manufacturers to better handle surges in demand. Hoda.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez for us. Gabe, thank you.